Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Debate, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about some of the white papers and discussion papers that are doing the rounds about how AI could or might be used or will be used, and some are theorizing it'll be used for this or that purpose. So I've sort of put these together, and I'm giving my own synthesis of those ideas and thoughts. Now, some of these things are coming out of sort of people and organisations that are close and are funded by say the World Economic Forum, or their outfits that are just lapdogs for the globalists and that sort of stuff. So I guess you'd say they're trying to soften us up and prepare the way ahead for things that they actually do want to do. Now, whether AI turns out to be what people think it will now, then that's another matter. If you look at really all the new technologies that came out, whether it be television or radio, as in communication and information gathering type technologies, that was supposed to be creating this world of opportunity and this world of openness and free exchange of ideas, and the internet was going to mean it was going to democratize the whole world and so on. And things, of course, haven't, if they did even briefly achieve or fall into some of those categories, ultimately there were elite interests tried to take control of it, to use it for their own purposes, and social control is always the first lever that the elites reach for. Hey, guess what? TV is there to entertain, but it's also used for mass propaganda delivery, for example, and so it becomes controlled in that sense. So will AI achieve the objectives that some think it will in terms of making our lives better? Will it only be used to control us? What will it be used for exactly? So will it be used for brainwashing? Will it be used in conjunction with brain chip implants? And the list of possibilities really is endless, because technology is moving fairly quickly in those areas. So, but let's just have a look at what people are talking about now. And again, some are already in the propagandist camp, and what some of the other comments are. Now, AI can be seen in the context of, say, smart cities, where the AI administers everything, and it's increasingly seen as that people will be freed from, whether it be politicians or public servants or folks like that, will be freed from having to administer public services and administer regulations. This will all be done supposedly impartially by AI. So the AI won't care that you're a trans, black, lesbian or something. It'll treat you, supposedly this is, in the same way as anyone else, and so that'll create a nirvana of equality and equity, because the pre-assumption is that Nazis are running everything everywhere. That's keeping the black lesbian down, and therefore holding the black lesbian back, and the transgender lesbian and so on. And so if we remove all those Nazis and AI takes over, then suddenly equality will emerge. Now, there may be more sensible people that say, well, some of these black lesbians are holding themselves back. They're adopting lifestyles which are extremely dysfunctional and self-destructive. They're refusing to work, and so on and so forth. So you say, well, they're really destroying their own lives. They don't need any help from these supposed omnipresent Nazis. So we doubt very much whether that'll create the sort of equity that's imagined. Now, will it create an equity to say, well, even if you don't work, it doesn't matter. We'll make sure you've got the same lifestyle and outcome as the hard-working, bright, straight, white male that's over there, who's busting his ass and doing productive things. We'll make sure the two of you have exactly the same life outcomes. We'll just steal from him to give to you, or we'll artificially dampen down what he can achieve and make sure that you have the same as whatever he has. Now, in order to do that, you need to sort of have a lowest common denominator approach. And they had this in all the communist societies. The Soviet society was a case in point, that everybody, this is the beginning of modern communism, from the the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, the idea was that everybody works, everybody consumes. Now, there were dispensations from working. For example, if you just given birth, you could look after a newborn child, or if you're in the final stages of pregnancy, or if you were looking after an infirm relative, these sorts of things. So there were dispensations, but basically the laws were quite harsh. If you weren't working, you were effectively committing a crime against your fellow citizens in this everybody works, everybody consumes thing. Now, everybody was meant to consume the same things. You were meant to wear the same raincoats, or you're meant to wear the same warm gloves in winter, or the same hats. Everyone's supposed to have the same thing, and this was seen as an efficiency. So you only need to ever make and design and stitch up one raincoat, or one pair of trousers, or one shirt, or so, that sort of, in different sizes perhaps. But the idea was that would be efficient. You wouldn't waste money on different designs and colors and different, marketing these different brands. You would have one, and that would be an efficient. And on the face of it, it isn't an efficient use of resources. You only have to just do one design or one lot of something, and that's it. And then whatever resources that you save from that can be put into other things. The reality is it never worked that way, because market signals and pricing signals and value signals weren't returned to the manufacturers. In fact, they were irrelevant. So you'd say, well, there's going to be 20 million, for example, 20 million pairs of shoes needed the next year, or in the next 12 months, or 20 million raincoats, or 20 million umbrellas. It didn't really matter. Then you'd make those, that'd be it, and they'd just be put out and distributed to the shops. So the idea of efficiency, or concepts of efficiency, differ depending on how you structure your economy. Is it efficiency of production? Is it efficiency measured in some other way, as in relative cost of production to the price you can get? But if all these things are fixed and centrally planned, as they are in communist economies, then the very idea of efficiency tends to go out the window. Efficient at what? Now, say we want a low cost of manufacture per unit, but then in order to achieve full employment, you have to have masses of jobs that are created just to make sure everyone's employed. So you can be looking at as much as 10 times more workers are actually employed in jobs that are needed. And an example of this was when East Germany, the communist satellite state of the Soviet Union, merged back with West Germany, which was the capitalist version. And it was quite surprising. East Germany was probably the most productive communist society in the world. But still, the difference between West Germany and East Germany was remarkable. They were looking at overmanning levels. More employees were needed, between 7 and 10 times the actual number that were needed in an actual productive, as in market economy, productive society. So, but we're seeing changes in that due to the globalists anyway. As an example, in Australia with the mass migration, the government is vastly expanding the number of people it employs, so it can employ all these Indians that otherwise would be unable to get jobs. Companies that rely on, or businesses that rely on government contracts, are effectively being forced to create jobs, again for Indians and so on, subcontinent Indians, to create this artificial layer of employment. Also, there are now well over 1 million jobs in Australia that are peasant income package jobs, where they bring illiterate peasants from anywhere around Asia, primarily India again, but also rural China, and bring them into work in nail painting salons and restaurants, take-out food shops, that sort of thing. And they're given a pittance to live on, but they're given accommodation and food, really in the same way that the illegals, say, going to Britain are. They're given accommodation. That's effectively the deal that these people get from the Indian-owned take-out food shops and those. So all this employment being created. But that's how it was in social society. So the idea is that artificial intelligence will create a mass equal outcomes in society, whether it be through the smart cities or anything. But the public services will be administered and delivered by AI. You won't have to deal with people, and you'll just have to go online, fill out the form, and then AI will make the decision that yes, you can renew your driver's license or those sorts of things, or this is your weekly allowance for buying food at the store, at the grocery store, and this sort of thing. Also, it'll be, and if we look at, say, the Chinese social credit system, where if you've, in the view of the Chinese state at least, misbehaved in some way or not behaved in a way that's deemed as acceptable or satisfactory. And some of these things be obvious. For example, if you're caught urinating in public or defecating in the street, that would affect. And you say, well, those things are reasonable enough, but that's not really the issue. It's how far it goes. We noticed that you spoke to someone on the train, and that person, we say, holds views that are dangerous to the state or dangerous to the is an enemy of the people. And but they only asked me what the time was, and I told them it was 5 o'clock or something. Well, you say that was right, but we noticed you spoke to them. So for this month, you're not allowed to travel on public transport. Oh, excuse me. Or for this month, you're not allowed to go to the grocery store. You can't visit your sick mother or something. These sorts of things. So now I'm sure there'll be appeal processes, but if you've ever had to work through an automated process to appeal something that's been made, now it's actually quite arduous. You can spend a long time online or on the phone or whatever, and when you do, assuming you do come across someone, they're typically rather hostile. They assume you're trying to weasel out or get out of your responsibility, and you're a damn Nazi and they're onto you. And so they very much have this prejudicial view when you do come across. Now it can be sorted out if you're patient and polite and persevere. You typically can, but it takes a big expenditure of time, and that by that stage you're on a record as being a disruptive influence. So there are those considerations as well. So if AI is going to achieve anything, it'll be a monitoring process. So AI will be effectively control all the facial recognition cameras, and the whole social management, social control, information delivery process will be centrally controlled through AI. So if the AI deems that you're maybe just not quite a responsible citizen as they'd like, then you'll only be allowed to watch online programs or only access certain websites that reinforce the propaganda of the elites. So there'll be things like that. You won't be allowed to do things that they deem or the AI deems rather. Now, this comes down to programming the AI. For example, if you say to an AI thing, well, Donald Trump, evil, 4 times indicted, Joe Biden, the most popular president ever in the history of the United States, 81 million votes, and what a great guy. Oh, what fantastic. So you can get the pre-programming of AI is done with severe prejudice in terms of the values that it wants to use to control you or control the citizens. So I think AI will be a mass control, mass surveillance, all of that integrated, and then mass behavior, as in not so much rewards. I don't think it's going to give reward, although it might. I think it'll give restrictions, and then it can withdraw those restrictions if you cease to be or you don't offend it anymore, or don't transgress. And the transgressions, what will the transgressions be? Will they be documented? Will they be subject to an impartial court of law? And I imagine that courts of law will be controlled by AI in the future. You'll go along and say, well, I didn't really do that because I wasn't there. Proof well being required, and it'll be like the Daleks in Doctor Who or something. So you'll have to prove that produce documents, and you have 1 hour to produce documents, and so you can imagine the control levels, and how they'll be delivered and implemented, and how impartial they'll be. So I don't see AI. I see AI as something that would, like communism, would substantially reduce the standard of living of everybody in order to achieve the type of equal outcome that the socialists dream of. But we'll still have a society of mass-controlled consumerism. And I think what AI will also do is make sure you buy, or you can only access the goods and services you need from some global mega corporations which will run the world, and AI will be integrated in there to ensure that you consume only from those monopolies and oligopolies and cartels, whether it be pharmaceuticals or whatever. So I think that'll be integrated in AI. So it's going to be a mass control at every level. I would think on what we think, what we do, how punishments are administered. Maybe it'll be like that TV show, sort of Dark Angel, where there'll be, these flying cameras, running around, drones running around, monitoring everything, maybe giving you a quick, laser zap on the ass if you you don't move along, things like that. So I see it going in that direction. I don't see it being beneficial at all. Could it be beneficial? Well, I suppose in some ways, but if it's not improving your life and ensuring and guaranteeing your freedoms and ensuring impartiality of delivery of justice and administration of law and the rule of law, if it isn't doing any of those things, and I can't see how it would, then it's simply going to be a tool of control and oppression, as I would see it, at least. And I think that's the direction it'll go in. Now, if you're looking at mega corporations that are going to effectively force you to consume their goods and services, they'll be allowed to have private profit and property. You won't, they will. And then I think AI will effectively be something that delivers not only control and workforces and services and whatever, forcing you to work, do this or do that, but also force you to consume. Now, they'll give you a universal basic income. AI will sort of deliver that to you as an automated process. But then you'll be told you can only buy from these shops at these times and only buy these range of goods. I think that's inevitable. So I see AI doing that. So I see it as that potentially, I guess, like a lot of things, it could be beneficial if applied in certain ways, but who gets to decide what is beneficial and how it's applied? So I think the real politic of AI will be it'll be used for social control and oppression. It'll create this artifice of equal outcomes, but only to lowest common denominator. You need to look at these communist societies that in order to achieve the level of conformity and control and mind control and thought control and all this sort of thing, they had to employ vast numbers of the citizenry to spy on and to apply, push propaganda at the rest of the people. Not only that, you weren't allowed to see any other or hear any other alternative point of view or any alternative position or alternative interpretation of things. There was only one interpretation and one source of information, one source of alleged truth. And we saw that sort of view and attitude being pushed in cover. We are the one source of truth. Oh, yeah. So that's my view. You've been fantastic with us today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.